Hello viewers, today we will learn about industrial accidental injuries and their prevention. The contents of today's presentation will include introduction to the topic, including the environmental health and safety, industrial accidents, some global and national, legislations regarding industrial health and safety. Then we'll discuss the preventive measures for accidents and industrial hazards and the industrial risk assessment. Environmental health and safety, also known as EHS or HSE in short, is a department in a company or an organization which has been given the task of ensuring first, the protection of workers, their health, and the natural environment. Second, compliance with the legal requirements and regulatory standards, and also increase the productivity, profit, morale that comes with a safe and healthy workforce. Why are we discussing this? Let us have a look at the major industrial accidents in India in the past few years. We all know about the Bhopal gas tragedy in December 1984, which was the worst chemical disaster, and a gas leak from the Union Carbide plant in the city killed over 4,000 people. In Delhi, December 1985, again a gas leak, oleum gas leak from the Sriram Foods and Fertilizers plant in Delhi severely affected workers and those living in the neighborhood. In the same year, Rourkela blast furnace accident, 18 workers were affected. In 1987, Durgapur chlorine leak at the Durgapur chemical factory created panic all around. 1988, Mumbai. Fire at the Bharat Chemical Refinery at Mahul, northeast Mumbai, killed 32. September 1989, there was a major gas leak at Fertilizer Corporation of India unit at Ramagundam, which killed 7 people. Nagote, November 1990, explosion at the Indian Petrochemicals, 35 people killed. In July 1991, accident in a Hindustan Organic Chemicals unit near Mumbai killed 7 workers. 1991, same year, Gwalior blast at the dyeing department of Grasim unit killed 14 and 22 were severely injured. Next year, 1992, in Panipat, there was ammonia leak at the National Fertilizer plant which killed 11 and injured many. In the same year, 1992, boiler explosion in the National Thermal Plant Corporation, 11 were killed and several injured. So we see that there have been major industrial accidents in our country over the years. So there is a need for major legislation, that is the laws, for industrial health and safety to safeguard the health and safety of our industrial workers. The major legislations are as follows: Factories Act and Factories Amendment Act 1987, Environmental Protection Act 1986 and the Rules 1986. These were amended in 2004. Manufacture, Storage, Import and Transboundary Movement of Hazardous Chemical Rules 2008, amended in 2009. Hazardous Waste Management and Handling Rules 1989, which were amended later in 2000 and 2003. The Environment Impact Assessment Notification 2006, the Disaster Management Act 2005. The Insecticides Act 1968, which was amended in 2000, and the Insecticide Rules 1971, these were amended in 1999. The Motor Vehicles Act 1988, the Central Motor Vehicle Rules 1989, which were amended in 2005. There is the Explosives Act 1884 and the Explosive Rules 1983, which were amended in 2002. The Gas Cylinder Rules 2004 and the Static and Mobile Pressure Vessels Rules 1981, the Explosive Rules 1983, which were later amended in 2002. Then there are legal instruments for management of hazardous waste, which include the Biomedical Waste Management Amendment Rules 2018, the Batteries Management and Handling Rules 2016, and the Hazardous Microorganism Rules 2000. What is the importance of legislation? Legislation provides workers with minimum standards of protection in the workplace, and these minimum standards can be made more protective by strengthening the government legislation. Legislation is only effective in protecting workers when it is supported by the government enforcement. Since many governments do not have enough inspectors to inspect every workplace regularly, it is also up to the workers and unions to be regular workplace inspectors. Let us have a look at the National Policy on Safety, Health and Environment. This is a general guidance to all the stakeholders to discharge their responsibilities in an appropriate manner. It helps to create a positive safety and health culture and enables development of research activities, skill development of employees, employers, enforcement authorities, and society at large. Ensures participation and cooperation of employers and employees, promoting employee participation for effective management. The policy ensures better compliance and implementation through a mechanism of accrediting competent professionals and institutions. The implementation of this policy would enable timely collection, compilation, and analysis of work related injuries, diseases, sicknesses, etc., for qualitative decision making at the national level. How do we define an industrial accident? An industrial accident is any unintended or unplanned event which has the potential to cause harm or injury. According to the Factories Act 1948, it is an occurrence of an industrial establishment causing bodily injury to a person who makes him unfit to resume his duties in the next 48 hours. It is also defined as a personal injury to an employee which has been caused by an accident or an occupational disease and which arises out of or in the course of employment and which would entitle such employees to compensation under the Workers' Compensation Act 1923. What are the causes of industrial accidents? They can be classified into unsafe conditions at workplace or unsafe acts, or it can be other causes. An example of an unsafe condition may be poor lighting or poor ventilation or the electrical connections are not secure. The unsafe acts may be like consumption of alcohol at workplace or drugs, or the person has not had enough sleep, or they are not following the safety protocols, or are not wearing the safety equipment. Other causes can be miscellaneous causes or a combination of these two. What are the types of accidents that can occur in an industry? The accidents can be major or minor depending on the degree of injury caused to the person. The injury caused by the accident may be external or internal injuries, or they can be a combination of both external and internal injuries. The disability caused by the accident may be temporary or permanent. It may be partial or total. It can be fatal or non fatal. We have seen cases of dying on spot, that is the fatal and major injuries, or there can be small injuries to the limbs which can lead to permanent disability. They are also classified under major, or there may be temporary disabilities like minor bruises or burns which heal over time. As an example of industrial hazards, let us discuss electrical hazards with special reference to the construction industry. By definition, electrical hazard is a dangerous condition where a worker could make electrical contact with energized equipment or a conductor and from which the person may sustain an injury from shock, and or there is potential for the worker to receive an arc flash burn, thermal burn or blast injury. The causes of electrical hazards are many. It may be due to improper grounding, due to exposed electrical parts, inadequate wiring in the circuits, damaged insulation, overloaded circuits, damaged tools and equipments which are used, wet conditions, especially on the floor, and overhead power lines. So, what are the safeguards that we can use? The workers are advised to remove watches, rings, neck chains, or other current conducting apparels and metals. They should wear electric shock resistant footwear, wear a CSA approved Class E hard hat or equivalent. They are advised to wear safety glasses with side shields, wear under and outer clothing that has flame resistance properties. The various engineering control measures are: one is to redesign the process and substitute safer products for more hazardous ones, keep the hazard away from the employees, use good ventilation, redesign the equipment or replace old equipment with newer equipment, and improve the work policies and procedures. The administrative controls may include rotating employees between a hazardous task and a non-hazardous task so that the length of exposure is reduced. Second is to increase the number of breaks to reduce the time of exposure to hazards like working in the hot sun. Keep the work area free of clutter and debris. This will require good housekeeping to reduce the chance of trips and falls. One can improve the personal hygiene facilities and practices at workplace like facilities for washing hands, using toilets. The workers should be provided with training programs to increase their awareness regarding the hazards and their prevention. The employees should be able to recognize and evaluate the hazards and to take action in time to protect themselves, thereby reducing the accidents. People can be assigned to do the job safely. The use of personal protective equipment protects the employees from exposure to a hazard. They are worn on the body. They may include the respirators, gloves, eye protective measures, earplugs, hard hats, overalls, and safety shoes. Wear a PPE when other methods of hazard control aren't possible. However, these methods are not exclusive. The engineering control measures, the administrative measures, and the personal equipment measures, they can all be used in various combinations as per the need of the place. In the industrial risk assessment, the first important step is to identify the hazards and risk factors that have the potential to cause harm. That is called hazard identification. After we have identified the hazard associated with a particular industry, it is important to analyze and evaluate the risk associated with that hazard. That is called the risk analysis and risk evaluation. Once we have evaluated the risk, we have to determine and design appropriate ways and measures to eliminate the hazard and control the risk when the hazard cannot be eliminated. That is called the risk control. So, what are the preventive measures to be taken for these accidents and industrial hazards? At the top of the pyramid is remove the hazard by engineering measures. That is, have safe equipment at place, right? The second is have the administrative control, that is the good policies and procedures in place at workplace. The third is the personal protective equipment to be worn by the workers like the helmets or other specific protective equipment that may be prescribed for their job. Why is risk assessment important? First, to create awareness of the hazards and risk associated with the employment. Second, identify who are the people who are at risk. Is it the employees, cleaners, visitors, contractors, or even the general public? Determine whether control program is required for a particular hazard or no. And also find out if existing control measures are adequate or more should be done in order to prevent injuries or illnesses, especially when done at the design or planning stage. It is important to prioritize hazards and implement control measures and meet the legal requirements wherever applicable. It is a three-step process in industrial risk assessment. First, the risk analysis. That is, identify the risk at workplace and what is the magnitude of the problem. The second is the risk evaluation in terms of injuries that may be caused to the workers or to the public. And the final step, based on the risk analysis and risk evaluation, is risk control. How do we diminish or decrease this risk or totally eliminate it? There are two major functionalities that are used. One is the HAZOP, that is the Hazard and Operability Study, and second is FMEA, that is Failure Modes and Effects Analysis. HAZOP study is a structured and systematic examination of a complex, planned or existing process or operation in order to identify and evaluate problems that may represent risk to the personnel or equipment. FMEA is the systematic proactive method for evaluating a process to identify where and how it might fail and to assess the relative impact of different failures in order to identify the parts of the process that need change. In short, we have discussed the industrial accidents, how they occur, their past history, and how we can do a risk assessment to decrease the effect. See you next time. Thank you for patient listening.